Hey, this is Josh, the attic insulator. We're here with over 3,000 square foot house. We've got a loft area here that we're gonna have to do. So I've climbed over top. They put this ladder down here that I was able to climb down. So I'm gonna do this top portion here first, and then climb down and do the bigger portion over here. The homeowner built some nice lights so that I could see properly, and that's one of the things that you rarely see, which is great. And at the same time, I'm going to show you a little catwalk that the homeowner built so that you guys can have a better idea as to how to do that for yourself for the attic when you want to build extra lights for your attic, or if you want to check up on your plumbing in the future. So that's a great idea to build for future maintenance and attic projects. We've got the extensions here just like the homeowner had said, and then we got a part of a nest here. Just during construction sometimes birds can get in, and then we've got an extension over here with a gable wall at the very end. To start, the machine's already started, but what I want to do is I want to measure off and see the depth that I have to install. So the top of this 2x4 is what I'm aiming for, right over here, to fill all that. And these vents are high enough, which is nice, as well as the gable vents are high enough, so nothing will get clogged up. Then you got the ridge vents up in here, which, like I said in previous videos, I'm not a huge fan of those, just because I find that it does get covered with snow for, even if it's just for a couple of hours. Okay, gonna get started here. Issues with the machine right now. It doesn't want to fill up for some reason. There we go. The important thing here is that you always have some nice consistency. That's key, especially for these areas. If you've got the material that's coming out too thin, then you're not gonna have a good spread, and you're gonna have a really rough time trying to fill these gaps nicely. So, and you can see that the soffit hasn't been installed in that area, which is fine because some of it's flying off outside, and that's normal. After that, they can put the soffit in, and then they're doing that today as well. So I'm just covering up right now with my hand as well, because then you get a nice coverage, and I shoot the insulation where I need it. It can land where it has to be, and not where it doesn't have to be. So if that makes any sense. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty much how you do it. Get it all nice and covered for the homeowner, and he's gonna be ready for fall and winter time, and not have any condensation in his brand new drywall. So even with these hard to reach areas, you want to start at the perimeter just like I'm doing here, and then after that work the middle. It's the same technique for every area in the attic that you're going to do yourself. This way you don't miss any corners. If you're shooting it straight on, just like I'm doing here, then both corners right beside the vents are going to get covered. If you're shooting it not exactly straight on through the cavity, then you've got a chance where the corners are not going to be filled properly, and that's where you've got your weak points. So you always want to avoid that. And then after that, you're working the middle and you're evening everything out. And at the same time, you don't get compression, too much compression in the material that you're going to install, because you can work your way back and use your distance. You see how I'm not going right in and using the hose. I'm taking the hose to the side there, and always watching for the distance so that there's a good spread to the material. Not compressing it too much. If you do compress it too much, then you're going to be using more bags than you've calculated in your project, and your project is going to cost more money. You're going to have to go back to the store and buy more bags, and that's going to be time lost. And so you always want to be as efficient as possible. There you go, right there. All this good stuff. I can crawl right out of here. You see there's multiple gable walls in this house. One technique I always use to understand my depth before I insulate is that I'm going to look at the perimeter just right here where the vents are, and I'm going to put my measuring tape. You see that 20 inches, so if I pass that just a little bit here, I get my 21 and a half, and then I've got a good line right across on the perimeter that I could join in at the gable wall here, because as you can see here, I've done the same depth on the other side, so I can join it in, and I know that my depth is going to be uniform right across this area of the attic. And then you can always work your way back and match the depths everywhere. See that 2x4 that's at the bottom, just like I had on this side? It's the exact same situation. So that's how you can more easily install a uniform product throughout your attic project. I can stand right here, and as you can see, I can just match up the both areas there. Just work across from left to right or right to left, however you're comfortable, and you match the blowing on both ends, just like that. And then it makes a really nice finished product. See how I'm also working my distance so that the insulation does not get crushed, because you do want your air pockets to be uniform across the entire depth of the product that you're installing, so that it's as efficient as possible. Because if you do crush it, then it's not going to be a consistent product, and it's not going to work the way that it was designed to. I really want to mention that I like this detail here with the foam board. They used a 1-inch foam board here right on the perimeter, and that works really nicely when you have a really high baffle that you need to install. The one thing that you want to watch out for when you're installing vents is that you see here, this is the flexible part of the vent. You don't want to crush that too much, or else you are going to lose out on your venting. And so when you are putting these sheets of insulation back in to your baffling, you want to have it really soft so that it doesn't crush this flexible portion. Which is also why some people, what they do when they install this is that they flip so that this portion is down here, because this is a lot more solid and sturdy than this flexible portion of your styrofoam vents. So here what I'm doing is that I'm building up the insulation as much as I can, because I know that once I get into this area, I won't be able to really reach in here. And so I do want to finish all that off before I move back and into the lower portion. So that's what you always, when you're in one position in the attic, you always want to cover as much ground as you can and visualize what your line of sight is going to be in the next section. So if I'm over here, I won't be able to hit here, and so I'm moving the hose as I go, and I'm gonna have to cover this section as well as this section when I'm over here, then I can just even out this area here, and then you know that everything, like I said all the time, it's covered properly at the R60 level that the homeowner requested, and well, by code. So there you have it, right? Evening out all this stuff right here, so it looks really uniform and nice. Get all the nooks and crannies, so, right down to the end. Sometimes cupping is required, so I'm just gonna move the hose over. I'm gonna stand right about here. Get the hose out of the way. Watch out that it doesn't wrap my foot as I'm doing this. You know, feel free as you're doing this for your first time that you do stop the machine. I know that I'm not always the guy that's well, I've got a lot of experience, so that's why, like, I'm aiming the hose over so it's not covering the vents, and then I'm saving time at the exact same time, because this is going to be this is a 3,000 square foot house, and then we've got another job that's another 2,000 square feet, so we've got a pretty busy day. Here you see that the vent isn't ideal, so you just stuff your hose like that, you build it up, and by doing so you're not necessarily covering all of the venting. There's this little 2x4 here to sit on, so that I've got a nice view of this area here, so I could finish it off and even it out. This is what I was talking about, because this 2x4 is somewhat preventing me for, sorry, not 2x4, this piece of plywood is preventing me from having a good view of these sides here. I want to peek through every once in a while and just make sure everything is uniform. There we go. Now I can move on to the further section, just like that. Just move over. I'm aiming over here where I haven't done yet. Right, that's sort of the strategy there. I always have a hand on a 2x4 so that if you miss your step, you have something to hold on to prevent you from falling any further and really hurting yourself. There you go. Just finishing this area here and moving back, because now I've taken out the hose at the area that I want to fill. Those are always those little strategies that help out with time. And I'm shooting straight onto the vents so that they fill, the loose fill fills on both ends of the vents properly. That's how I typically do that. There you go, finishing this area off nicely and moving on. These are not always ideal to fill, pretty difficult usually. They typically take also more bags to fill, just because it compresses it, since for the most part you're always aiming down to fill these spots properly. So that's something else. If you have something that looks like this, where the framing, typically the framing is similar here for small areas. It depends on the framer, really, because they had some sort of truss system down here, and then it's more of an open area on top. It's a different type of frame versus just your standard trusses. It's more custom. So notice when I'm doing these vents that the insulation is shooting back right into my face. That's the reason why I have nice goggles or that I use a full face mask, all depending on what season it is. Right now I'm liking the N95 mask because I can also do some talking while I'm doing filming, and so I don't have to do voiceovers, and it's easier to breathe. Okay, soon we're gonna work our way down, and I'm gonna shut the hose for that. I'm just gonna fill these cavities first as much as I can. What's nice about this here is that I can pretty much fill everything without worrying too much that the hose is going to disturb the insulation, just because of all this nice framing that's keeping the hose from falling down and crushing the insulation that I just installed. So we're just gonna finish this off right here. And I always what I want to do too is cover more than what you need sometimes, so we don't have to come back, and I can safely say that I've installed the required depths. And so I don't like installers that take advantage of homeowners, and so the hard to reach areas, they kind of go, oh no, I don't need to, you know, do that great of a job, because they won't see the end product anyway, so they can't, you know, it's I believe in karma very much. And so if you put in the work, treat people the way that you want to be treated, then it's going to come back to you in a positive way. So you see, it's a really awkward area to insulate, but I'm just finishing it off and making sure that the depth is everywhere, at least to the minimum there. And as you can see, sometimes it's even more, and that's okay. There we go. Got it down packed now. So that top is 22, and we just have to do 21 and a half. So everything is good.